Okay. What am I thinking? Okay. So, just making sure I'm set up first. How do I check this? And then, I don't know if this is disconnected. Give me a second. Yeah, it's working. Okay, so I don't need to worry about that. The volume's off, yes. Okay. Where we last left off was the processing service is originally hooked up to the main DB and not the token database. So need to establish which database it depends on. And if it depends on both, then determine which one it should be more closely tied to. And then if it should be asking another service for that database. Like, it could remain with LFDB and then always go to token database for everything, but maybe it doesn't even do anything with the normal DB. So, if it's heavily tied to the normal DB, then keep it there. Am I hot? I wouldn't know. Is it hot? Maybe a little. Also, I need to fucking plug it in. I forgot. Plug the laptop in. Fucking crawl under the table, basically. Okay. Yeah, so that's the order of business. I'm good, right? Yeah, okay, cool. I've like got my mind on streaming and everything related to streaming. Or like just uploaded a YouTube video of my first broadcast and thinking about a few details around that. It's got my mind on that rather than actually on the work. Okay. I thought I committed everything. So if I exit and come back in, it should all be blue. Which one's an example of one I edited it? Well, the shared places of processing. Yeah. Cool. Also going to turn that radiator down because it's right next to me now. It's barely even on anyway. Why not open a window? Okay. Right, so the processing, let's close these down. So we generally want to look in here and check the models that it is using for any ORM operations. It'd probably be easy if I can grep by like the current directory. Oh no. What's S? What am I thinking? Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, let's quickly look. So we can just like ask model. So it's got a model page, but it doesn't really matter about getting the model in it. It matters about ORM. So we've got no ORM in here, and nothing here. We don't have anything in the startup, so that means we're just thinking about the core. So this gets existing page. That's all it needs to care about. And then, oh no, there's create page tokens here. Yeah, so in that essence then, it doesn't actually get anything from the main DB. But then why was it ever pulling from that? Sorry, a bit distracted. Why was it ever connected to the main DB? And in YouTube, GormDB. Oh yeah, this is copied over from the old project, the prototype. So that gets page. So this just needs to be connected to token then. So in the database, instead of it going, so it's in the compose file, which determines its database DB name. So this needs to be tk-db. That's still the same. Okay. Now to find out if that's actually going to cause, if that's going to get us beyond that problem, it might cause another one. Execute migrations. Account. Why would it have an account? Oh. Well, let's just SQL. Connection refused. But is the processing service started up? The processing service should say it's happy. Oh no, because it, let's try again. Because it was doing that migration and then stalled. Connection refused. Why is it connection refusing? Okay, you have an error in the SQL syntax. So let's not even do the migration. What do we do with a C? We don't need to. What even is C here? I mean, that's explicit. Is that gonna error this time? We ignore the migration because it doesn't migrate anything. Oh look! We got somewhere. So this is more like the output that I should be seeing if it actually processes. Like, this is too much debugging. Tom's mom made him tasty breakfast. Hyphen. Eggs, toast, ate quickly, but... Oh, see, one sunny morning. Ah, see, it started with debug here. So one sunny morning, Tom woke up feeling excited and a bit nervous. It was his first day at new school. So this is tokenizing. So when it encounters a word that's what it's encountered before, it won't need to process it as if it's new. It will save every single word. So it's only printing out new words, which is why it becomes grammatically incorrect after a little while, when you've got repeating words that it would encounter. So, What am I thinking? Well, we can drop. So we can drop and do the entire library in content startup. Cool. We have these return statements, which we can get rid of. We don't need to. That's only going to make the processing slower. That's fine. It says concurrently, but it used to be concurrently until I encountered an issue with processing them concurrently, which makes it so much faster, but it was error prone, and I don't need the performance just yet, so I don't need to debug it right now. If we go to Langfire then, so home should have nothing, because we've just dropped everything. And now if we process, it should do everything, but because of the prints, it's going to take 15 seconds maybe. Six seconds. One 140 pages. Well, that's concerning. So what I expect here is after process, it should be bringing up my cards for the options, and it hasn't done that. So something went wrong. Clearly, show tables. Select all from content. See, that's what. Like, why is content an empty set? 6 seconds was a bit quick as well. So in process content, ensure the categories. Oh, yeah. So it's like if it errors, but now this we need to do. So this is because recently I have marshaled all my errors into my own error type. So this is why I'm doing error equals error ID here, but that means it ignores the SQL no rows. So it means I'm going to have some leftovers of these. So instead of doing that, we need to do category exist.id. Like, so if the 0 is the nil, if it's a nil, then that's when we know it doesn't exist. And lf dot error. That's not legit. What do we put a string in here? Yeah, okay, so it's .log message. That's fine. We'll do a log message. That's fine. And now we need to do the same for the other ones. So Copilot will know it because it's just copying basically. And the last one, so it's not if we can get rid of content exists. Come on. See, it doesn't really know, does it? It's still giving me the output I was deleting. It's maybe because it exists there. So that should be tidy now. Okay. So let's drop them again. And then we can process them again. And hopefully we'd expect them to take a little bit more than 6 seconds this time. Still took 6 seconds. Why is it thinking, why did it do this? What did I click on? Aha, look, we have shit. I'm just gonna make sure it knows I'm in Russian. Short stories, nice. Oh, what's funny is I'm actually fetching the translations. I didn't even know I plugged that in. So I start to be just confused because I saw these translations like this is one day at Najdi. Um, and because I've been dropping the database, I was like, how did the translations persist? But I realized that it's fine fetching them dynamically and only if they don't exist. Although, now that I've got different if not exist logic, it might be fetching them every single time and maybe updating them. But for now, I can just not click on them before I look into it. For anyone who's wondering, basic premise of this website is you can save what level you think you are with each word, and it'll persist across all the time that you see that word again. Well, it's kind of a success. I didn't expect that to be that easy. And it seems to be tokenized correctly, which I was previously concerned about because the YouTube videos don't process properly. Like, if I take this video and I try to process it on YouTube, so you enter the URL. This is the video I'm interested in, yes, so it's going to process. It took 1.3 seconds to process it, which is fast. It used to be like a minute. Now if I can plug in WebSockets for how long it takes to process, and then I have a video card, and then I come here, it fetches the transcript, but this is all busted. So I need to debug that. But I thought because now I'm moving the tokenization from the token service, which was what was previously responsible for handling the reader. I thought because the processing service is responsible for YouTube, if I moved the standard stuff to the YouTube processor, then it would be busted as well. But it's not busted. This is working fine. Just right. And as you can see, it ignores tokens like exclamation marks. And properly trims out the word which we're targeting to identify if it's the same word as before. So then, I think, is that full enough? No. To catch anybody up, I don't know, I started this a year ago. I spent like a few weeks, 6 weeks maybe, made a prototype that had basic features like YouTube and reading and flashcards and a really basic profile, but the code was like slop. I was just powering through getting it out, and then sometime around May, June, I picked it back up and wanted to, because I was like reapproaching the database, like because I work, right? Reapproaching the code base. And it's like complete slop. It's like really hard to approach, and I knew that'd be a problem long term. And it was also getting to a point that even when I remembered all of it, like say I'm totally in the flow of using it, it's still just like things were getting in the way of productivity. So in about May, June, I just started again from scratch basically for a V2, like a non-prototype version. And so I had a good idea of what I wanted to do with it, but then I have made some changes, and then I got a lot of it working, but then I did another refactor to make a few things cleaner because I was doing like errors wrong, for example. So a few months ago, I restructured the way that I do errors and some refactoring, like the genericizing, like which isn't finished, like genericizing the service. So for example, when I say the service, I have the shared directory with the service function in, and so this post function is responsible for one microservice asking another microservice for something. and it does it generically. It takes in a generic type to unmarshal. I don't know what M is again. Oh, that's the payload. So M is payload. I could call that payload. See, JSON, that's actually not as explicit as I wanted it to be. It could be like unmarshal, like this, and then payload, I think. Is that going to work? I mean, like, in a sense, I just solved my own problem of being, I just said to myself, oh, what is that M? I don't know what that is. And T being generic. Like, I'm assuming that works. It's been a while since I've used Golang. We can also call that put a load. That's fine. So yeah, whereas previously, what was I doing? I was writing a bunch of functions. There may still be a couple. No, I think if I go to like user word, does this have a service? Do you have a service? You do have a service. So yeah, it was kind of like this each time. Get from DPL, even though it's not. So it was just prepping everything for the HTTP request, and this was done over and over again. And then I refactored it slightly to keep it a little bit drier, and then I realized that the best way to go is just have it completely generic. So when I call it, I just have to. Sometimes I have to define the type that it's using. So like that was one of the things I changed, and then also using variables for handler paths. So like this, patterns. And then also that means, so whenever I do like a service post, let me service.post like this, it's generic and it takes in what I call a replacer, which basically if the replacer had something like 2 as like an ID or something for the parameters of the URL, then it would put it in and output the URL with that replacement. So that's an improvement. And then yeah, lastly I handled the errors better. The ORM was there from the start. But yeah, so back to the story then. A few months ago I started doing like a refactor to tidy up some ridiculous stuff that was being repeated everywhere. And only recently has it been back to working, but I know that I actually didn't finish off the refactor. I know that there is still, like for example, every single handler should have a pattern to it, but I know that even processing doesn't have one. Like some of the processing handlers, the token. Oh no, these have been replaced. That's nice, most of them. But you see, this one hasn't been done. So yeah, I'm a little surprised that was easier to fix than I thought it would be. Just switching the DB over. It's surprising because I haven't switched it back and I thought it was working previously. If it's connected to the token DB, why would it even need to ask the token? Like, is that wise that it's connected to the token DB? So if you think about it like abstractly a little bit, if I've got a token service and a token service and a processing service, and then I've got a third entity which is the token database for these. Yes, I've got other databases and other services, but you've got like a triangle of dependency here. is it wise to have the relation such that both services point to the DB rather than the processing service point to the token service, which points to the DB? So whenever the processing service needs tokens, it needs to insert or get them, update them, it could middleman through the token service. Does that change the amount of stress? Does that change the delivery structure? Because I'm thinking about like having multiple boxes globally, and then every token service could have a token DB, and then processing services. Yeah, I forgot the structure. I think maybe it does want to ask the token service, because if you think about processing, imagine like I have quite a few users that are trying to upload YouTube videos to process. Now, it's quite fast on my machine, it's 1 second, and I could probably make it faster by using Rust, Zig, C, and optimizing further even. However, this is a very powerful machine, and then like a droplet. So that's the thing with performance. Just because it's 1 second doesn't mean it shouldn't be better in performance. And then like, because if you have better performance, it essentially means that you can have a cheaper machine to run it on. So imagine I have like a free tier of people being able to upload videos for themselves to a limited extent, and then a paid tier which gives them a more powerful machine to do the processing on. And then I'm going to want to make sure that those paid tiers are not too overloaded. The processing services are going to be... So the distinction between a token service and a processing service, a token service is going to be used just for fetching tokens whenever required. Well, like if somebody loads a page, right, then they're going to need tokens. But only when they upload either a book or a YouTube video or something are they going to need the processing service. But in needing the processing service, they need the token service. So essentially, depending on the load, and that's the point, you might need more token services than processing services, and having them like tightly coupled seems wrong, because you want to be able to determine, like, have them like pods and spin up multiple token services. If that's like, imagine you'd have like 3 processing services and 11 token services. And then also like child DBs, it will depend on the load of that as well. I just don't want to make an unwise decision too quickly. The processing service, how often does it hit the DB, and can it be improved? So let's have a look at the processor. It's only in the, well, in YouTube. What does it do in YouTube? It probably just like, this is also buggy, but let's have a look. So this is basic stuff of like worker, like adding it to the queue. And I can spin up multiple workers. And then process video, that's when it's back to like normal sort of stuff, like a page. It gets the transcript, tokenizes them. This is the same as process page, this is the function that's used there. Handles them in sections of the transcript, because a YouTube transcript comes back in an array of sections where it's like as you can imagine, one line moves up the screen as another line comes in. So it's like 6 words wide lines. But we don't, well, actually we do actually give them back, but we want to, obviously we need to go through them and handle them. We want to also have like a similar sort of thing, don't we? It's like in this video, and also that's an issue with React where we need to clear the state. So this is each line here, although this is broken, constant capital L and then Y. What is that doing? But yeah, this is like each line is a section. I also had like a nice little orange ball that moved along with it in the prototype. Got to implement that as well. But anyway, yeah, there's transcript sections. Final section, transcript token. That's just a many-to-many table because each token has a display as well as an underlying token of data. So like the lowercase of a word is what determines what word it is, and then it can have multiple displays. Like imagine you have the word the, and if it's at the beginning of the sentence, it's going to have a capital T, and when it's in the middle of the sentence, it'll have a lowercase t. And both of those need to be the same word, just with different displays. Service post, transcript token. So this is asking for it here. So it's kind of like what I've got here is, because it's asking for it from the token service, I've got like a contradiction in intentions, because I've got a bunch of ORM functions which just go straight to the database as if it's connected, and then I've got some where it asks the other service for the data. And this is where I've inferred the return type. You can see, right? That's the payload and any marshal. A nil marshalling. What are we doing with it? Oh, we're creating them in batches, so we just need like a true flag or something. We just need this to not error. So this is where we decide, yeah, the decision again, in principle, is which of the two choices which are in conflict do we actually go for, and which is wise long term. Now I'm trying to, like, jumping back and forth between explaining what am I trying to establish by looking, like, how many times it asks. Because really, imagine, like, if it's got multiple requests to try and establish how to process it, you would be better served if you could compress it down to like a request for its dependency data and then a request for its resultant data, rather than potentially multiple, which you could probably do and be a bit more complicated. And then that's a question as well. It's like if a box has like, so every box should have an API, I think, or should it? Like, it's been so long since I remembered like the delivery architecture that I'm going to go for. Like, every box having an API as a gateway? They don't really have to. They just need to have the address of... So you could have like a box for each service and then just make sure the addresses line up. I guess it might not be a massive work to undo as well. So if anything, potentially I could just leave it in this conflict where it's asking the token service and handle it later when I've got a better idea of how I'm going to deliver it. Let's keep looking. Yeah, this is the end of the file, isn't it? Yeah. Quick paste tokens. mean, it worked. I mean, I guess I don't have to fix that right now, do I? Like, if it's working and processed all the lessons, let's have like another quick check. Like, let's try another language, right? German. And yeah, so yeah, it's fine. Looks alright. And then let's check short stories has worked as well. I mean, common phrases, sorry. No. Do we not have? Well, do we have common phrases? Where's my database? Which one? We're looking at the content, so select. There shouldn't be that many. Select all from content, although that's a jumbling mess. Let's just quickly check what we have, and then we can Huh. Oh no, that's fine. It's lessons. Show tables. It's not content, it's what is. I guess it's page. Select from page. Let's do a /G so we can see what properties we have. Select. How do we determine if it's a short phrase or not? I mean, a set of phrases. Like, it's been too long since I've worked on this. Show tables again. No, because page and then page token. How do we associate the page to the content? Oh, content ID. Why are these all content ID 0? That's a problem. But then, if it's all content ID 0, why did it work before? So it's clearly wrong, isn't it? Let's just do it a limit. Limit 5. Oh, see, these are content IDs for some reason. So do these. So do these. Is it all the short stories have them, but the common phrases don't? I think so. No, that's Hungarian. Let's go back to 80. We're still in Hungarian. Now we're back to Russian. Why is Russian being processed first? 81. So it's Hungarian, and then Russian is 82. And this is, now it's content ID 0. Okay, why is it content ID 0 once we... So let's have a quick look at the library. Let's see, because I haven't looked at this in months, right? As we're looking at Russian. Yeah, so it doesn't determine it, but it's got the init Russian phrases here. So in startup. What am I thinking? All pages. If content title... Oh, it's based on the title. And author? Author must be Langfire. So we can go back to that now. What changes have we made here? Nothing. So content title, common phrases, author Langfire. But then why is that not matching then? Title, common phrases, Langfire with a... That should be right though, right? Why has it been stripped? That's how it determines the ID? It's like instead of doing content title, I probably should have just done ID. Oh yeah, the reason why I don't do ID is because process orders could potentially get wrong. So range of contents. Where do we get contents from? Okay, yeah, that's of course. There's only 2 of them. And then all pages, that just gets it from get library. In it English, in it Russian. Let's have a look. Does this spread both of them? In it Russian. Lessons. It's probably a pending at the end of this. Phrases, yeah. And then it appends. But then that looks right. That just sorts the process order. All pages. That's fine. So this looks like it should work. Library page content title. So obviously it's not working, that's why it's 0. Unless it's been stripped later, but that's unlikely. We could also do like a print and a half a second sleep or something and see if we can spot if they're all correct. Like if each page, like we could log the ID, right? And as soon as we spot a 0 here, then we know it's happened here. And if we watch all of them go through with correctly with 1s and 2s, then we know that it's been stripped later. But I don't know if that's necessary. Like, I don't know if that's a worthwhile path of investigation versus just trying to see that this condition is wrong for some reason. Content.author. We could lf.debug. Yeah, we're gonna do time.sleep here. Milliseconds? We'll do 500, not 5,000. Content title. So we're gonna check for matches there. As we go, we can drop again and then do the processing. So it must be this section, like, but then it's so strange because I didn't have that issue previously. We're beginning to process there, so we can drop them again. And I don't know if this is clean. It's very not clean. While we're here, we probably want to do that anyway, right? Like get rid of these, all of these crazy prints. So first of all, in the ORM, I've got a query, which I've removed as running query. This one. We want to put it back as running query. All that means is in my service where it says init, if it's in an init status, because this is a request ID typically, which tracks the ID for login purposes across different microservices, like with like async local storage, like on the routine, the Go routine. So if it's it's not on a request, it's not running, it's an initial state. So it's not running, which means a running query would not fire, but a query would. So that's how we keep, because one of the things that slows down the processing is having to print everything, because when it does 150 pages, 150 lessons in like 6 seconds, and the printing is actually a bit of a bottleneck. We want those. We probably don't want that. Where's that come from? It's in the startup that I was just in. I mean, sure. I thought it was here. Did I delete it? I thought it was when it does this. Maybe it's probably in this replacer. There's one there. Process page 1, getting records. So it's in the processing service, one of these. So it's like my dirty debug logs from before. If only I didn't commit. I only committed because I installed and I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my progress with some sort of crash. Potentially, even though you can rescue it, but safer. So I think it's in the handler, yeah. Get rid of that. And that, and then I think I had one in here as well, so get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. What else do we have? Process page 1, that's fine. And then IDs, that should just be fine to find as in IDs. Like lf dot, debug. And then, like this one, it's probably that one. So it's in that, yeah, token handler. We don't care about that. And then lang en, that's okay. Token service, that's been, this one's been removed. That's a running query. As you can see, it's not very helpful. Len display, that's probably len displays. Don't need that. And then token, it must be close after this point. Log string args. Well, where are we? Fetch display by screen args. I mean, it worked before. This looks like the args. en1. Where's the lang? Oh. We want to do running query here. Token service. Where are you? lf dot. I'm just gonna, like, these are all debugs from even months ago. Let's see what we have. Don't want that, don't want that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So that should be all the debugs from the token service. And then are we back to the beginning? No. Yes, maybe. Maybe. Let's just have a look. I think I've cleared almost all of it. It's not very clear, is it? What we can do is, because it's not clear, we can improve how we're logging. Back to the content service. Like a very, very typical pattern can be leveraged here. We can, for the range of contents, no, it's for the, we can do a var found as boolean, found is true. Well, I mean, we could do false, can't we, right? Just in, I'm sure false is the nil value, but why not be explicit? And I typoed. And then if, hold on a minute. Range of contents. What? How would this ever have worked? Is this because I wrote it with the concurrent stuff before and it was working here? Yeah, it's because this is a smaller loop for establishing the ID, and for some reason I think it's correct to wrap all of this in the content. Like, that seems to be the issue. I would imagine, without further debugging, all I need to do... I mean, I don't want to destroy my debugging, but let me just, for sake of argument, give it a shot, right? So we can put this here, close it, and then we need to get rid of one of those. Because we only need to do one request per page, right? Well, where's that getting closed? Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's perfect. I bet that's it. Like, so I had an issue with concurrency, and then I decided to process them with synchronously, non-concurrently, like one thread, or at least fire the requests from one thread. And then when I found, so I found that there was an issue with the concurrency, and then I somewhat recently changed it to a single thread, and that's what I must have wrote it like really poorly. And found the issue now, I hope. Fingers crossed, shall we say. I'm just going to throw that up again, just in case. So, let's process these bad boys again. It's taking a lot longer. Because it's sleeping. It's going to take 70 seconds because it's sleeping for 140 lessons. So it's going to go faster if we just remove the sleep and start again, right? .7 seconds. So let's just check the short stories first. Looks okay. And common phrases. Voila, in French. So it was that issue. Like a silly mistake in coding it before. Which is like, when you haven't worked on a project in a while, it's easy to forget that you coded something without much care. So we didn't need to do the debugging. But the debugging trick I was going to use is, if it wasn't found after looping through it, then I would print the logs in an error. An error would come out as a red one. Why are we printing all of this? Oh, this is translation stuff. Word data service. Is that JavaScript? I think it is. Yeah. We don't need to log all of this. Console log. Let's just do that. That's fine. They can keep those. Like, when you code on something a lot, regularly, you leave like these quirks in the code base which can trip you up if you're not still in the context of it. So take for example, I've got hot reloading on saving, and I've got it the same for Golang. So for example, if in any service, let's just do the API. If I just say server is ready on port is ready, let's just do that, is ready. It will say, it'll check that it's changed, hot reloading, air containers. I've got the node mon for the JavaScript ones. So this is an example of something that can trip you up. So I do remember that all of the microservices are being watched for hot reloading, but not the shared directory. So if I go into the ORM and make a change to how this is working, I have to rebuild the compose in order for it to take effect. So it's like an inconsistency that's left behind because I didn't want to figure out how to hot reload this shared files, which are piped in. So obviously I remember, as I said, but if I didn't remember, that could trip me up, and I could be like, oh, why is this not working? Which becomes like a interesting trade-off of when you are deciding to make whether it's worthwhile to put the extra effort into making something consistent. It's like you have to predict how much will this trip me up in the future. And it's hard to predict whether you'll even be working on the project for another 3 months or take a break. Okay. I mean, I guess we're back to what's going wrong with all this crap, right? Let's check the English stuff. See, I knew that this had an error. But why? Oh, I think the English... I think they don't even exist. So, in the library, content, library, English, this doesn't even have common phrases. I mean, we could remove the optional return, can't we? So the next thing to tackle is the YouTube. And I know there's some mess surrounding YouTube as well. It'd take a little bit of effort to get stuck into the context of the YouTube. And then debug why it's coming back really stuffy. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, that's cool.